And then today, after service, we are having a business meeting about the parking lot and how that's all unfolding. So be sure to stay after service so you can get more information about where we are with the parking lot. Then on May 11th, we are having a child dedication service. So if you would like to dedicate your child and that you want to raise them up the ways of the Lord and say, hey, church, come alongside me, help me, guide me, then be sure to sign up for that on the app, and that's going to be May 11th. So that's coming up quickly. So go ahead and get on that app and sign up for that ASAP. The last thing that I want to talk to you all about is going to be about May 23rd. That's going to be a Friday night. We are having a concert here for our youth, and it's going to be a benefit concert to help set off some camp costs. And so if you have a student, I would highly recommend that they come that Friday night. It is going to be a blast. We are having a local rapper come in, and it's going to be so much fun. I have heard him personally. He's come here to the church several times, and it is a blast. You're not going to want to miss out on it. So if you have a student in the Surge ministry, then be sure to mark your calendar for May 23rd. It's going to be $10 at the door. So just make sure to bring $10, and it's going to be a great time, and that's going to be May 23rd. And all this information that I have gone over today is on the app. I cannot stress it enough that you get the app. But hey, that's all I got for you today. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the attention over to the stage as Pastor Chris is going to bring the word today. And man, we are just so excited to see what God is going to do through him. You guys have a wonderful day, and I'll see you around.
All right, good morning. Good morning, good morning. All right, so next, if you got your Biblosses, you give me to 1 Peter 3. 1 Peter 3, next, Lord willing, next week we will be resuming our study in the life of the Messiah, and we will be dealing with the Lord's Prayer. The Lord's Prayer, and that might be a multi-week thing. I've been telling y'all, we did a short mini-series here about a month or two back, and about prayer and all this kind of culminating, all building up to starting next week about the Lord's Prayer. And so I am looking forward to it. I'm going to encourage y'all to be prayed up for it. Be prayed up for it. And so as we delve into the Lord's Prayer. So 1 Peter 3, in verse 1, this is a common passage for those of you who've studied any marriage counseling and marriage passages. This is one of the go-to passages. It is it's one of the easiest passages to understand. It is also one of those that gets right in your face real quick. And that's 1 Peter chapter 3 here in verse 1. It says, likewise, wives, be submitted to your own husbands, so that even if some do not obey the message by their wives' conduct, without a word, they may be won over as they observe your pure, reverent conduct. In verse 3, don't let your beauty be external, braiding the hair and wearing gold and jewelry or fine clothes. Instead, let it be the hidden person of the heart, with the unfading beauty of a gentle and quiet spirit, which in God's sight is very precious. For this is the way the holy women who put their hope in God used to beautify themselves long ago, being submitted to their own husbands, just as Sarah obeyed Abraham, calling him Lord. You have become daughters by doing what is good and not fearing intimidation. In the same way, husbands, live with your wives in an understanding way. Though they are weaker vessels, weaker partners, honor them as equal heirs of the grace of life. In this way, your prayers will not be hindered. Some of us, if you've been here for a while, you've heard this before. If you haven't, maybe a first time. But many of us know there are certain passages we know in Scripture. For example, the most famous song in all the Bible we know is Psalm 23. The most famous prayer in the Bible is the Lord's Prayer, which we'll get into next week. And the famous set of rules would be love God and love your neighbors yourself. And then we all know the 10 Commandments. And those are some of the highlights, the pinnacles, the high points of Scripture. And with this, this is part. So if you've been this while, you've heard this. But the 10 Commandments are actually they give us 10 Commandments on how to live, but there are also 10 Commandments about how to conduct a marriage. And sometimes when we come to the 10 Commandments, we tend to go to the idea of the do's and don'ts. You should do this, you shouldn't do this, and thou shalt not lie, and there's things here. And so sometimes we can separate the idea of the commandments, and we miss the undertone of what is taking place. And what I'm going to share with you again this morning is that the undertone of the Ten Commandments isn't just do's and don'ts. It's how to conduct a marriage. How to conduct a marriage. Because whenever we come into Christ, we come into this idea of a covenant relationship. We become engaged, we become espoused, as 2 Corinthians puts it. We become engaged to Christ because we're looking forward to what? The marriage supper of the Lamb. And with that there, you also remember that God became a husband to Israel when he brought them out of Egypt. And all that ties into the covenant that took place at these 10 commandments. So these are guidelines, not just in how to live. This is how to live in a covenant relationship. And if we are married today, we are in a covenant relationship. And if we're not married today, we're in a covenant relationship with the Lord. It's guidelines on how to live. The first commandment says, I am Jehovah your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. And this is it's interesting because you go back and there's debates, if you do any research on this, and there's debates on the ordering and commandments. Is the first commandment is the biggest one that people debate about and argue about, and how to number it. But in traditional Jewish numbering, this right here, there's no item to do. And that's why people say they kind of stretch 1 and 2 commandments. They divide them up in different ways. But in the traditional Jewish numbering, this idea is a commandment in and of itself because it is a declaration. It is a declaration. And with this here, the declaration is, I am Jehovah your God. So I'm your God. And that in itself is the declaration. That is the commandment that he alone is our God. He says, the idea is, I'm Jehovah your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. There is this declaration that takes place. Now, sometimes when we get married, then sometimes when we make this relationship to covenant marriage, the question may be asked, how many questions there are married to the right person? And sometimes we get the idea is, well, I was married to the right person, but no longer. And I wish I could have been married to the right person. And sometimes this idea, and sometimes a lot of people live in fantasy world, like I am married to this person, but kind of in my head say, I wish I could be married to another person or not married at all. And sometimes we allow our mind to go into crazy places, and most Christians would never admit to it, but sometimes in the back of their head it's still there. And the idea is sometimes they come to the idea of when we come to the place where you know what, this is my spouse, this is who I am married to, for better or for worse, as our vows say, it can bring us to a place of peace because there's no longer the struggle of going back and forth. Because sometimes, even as Christians, sometimes we struggle. I'm married to this person, but I'm not content with this person. Because I'm not content, I'm not at peace. At the very outset of having to have a healthy marriage relationship, there has to be peace. This is who I'm married to. Just like this is my God. This is who I'm married to. Being content in marriage follows willing acceptance of your spouse, because this is the person that I chose. This is the person I chose. And sometimes when we come to a place, you know what? I'm at, from this point forward, this is my spouse, for better, for worse. Let me make the best of it because this is who I'm married to. And sometimes the idea is, especially in today's social media world, where people live vicariously through other people. So sometimes if especially in the social media world today, that we are married to our. If you're married and you have your spouse, but then we're living through other people through social media, and the process there, we become more and more disconnected to our own spouse, and sometimes our own kids, because we're living vicariously. And sometimes when we come back to the places, I'm going to stop living vicariously through other people. I'm going to focus on who God gave me as my family and dedicate myself to that. That can give us to a place of peace, because it's no longer always like I'm 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I'm kind of halfway in there, I'm kind of halfway out. Yes, I am Jehovah God who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Our past is no longer our present. If Egypt, when Israel came out of Egypt, and they came out of Egypt and they still had the idea of a bondage mentality, they couldn't be in a place of freedom with who they were in the Lord now, because they were so bound to their past. When God brought them out of Egypt, he had to give them a new identity. A new identity. And sometimes that we struggle in marriages because sometimes we are not accepting of our identity. We sometimes kind of wish I could have a different spouse, or my spouse could be a different way. And because of all that, we're not a place of peace. We're not a place of rest. Our past is no longer our present. Many of us are still carrying baggage from our past and then blaming our spouse. It happens all the time. And so if you're not married, especially a young person here, if you listen to me, please, please, please hear what I'm saying, that you don't want to get married to somebody who's not emotionally and spiritually healthy. You don't want to get married to somebody who's not spiritually and emotionally healthy, because why? They'll bring baggage into the relationship. And in that baggage, you will now what? They will begin to transfer their problems. And sometimes say, well, I love this person. We're going to work it out together. Sometimes that's foolishness. Because when the honeymoon period wears off, guess what happens? They begin to weight everything down. And that's why it's so important that before you get married, you go through marriage counseling. One of the main purposes and goals of marriage counseling is to make sure both parties are spiritually and emotionally healthy before they get married. Sometimes it's a home life. Sometimes it's a childhood. Sometimes it's education or expectations, or sometimes it's traumas or failures or past relationships and all the stuff we bring into the new marriage because we have this old trauma, these old hardships, these old things that we're blaming our own spouse because of our life experiences. We have insecurities sometimes, and then we bring those insecurities into our new marriage and therefore bring our old identity into a new covenant, and it has no place there. When we go into the new covenant, our old has passed away. Our old has passed away. Why? We're in a new covenant. And it's that way with God, and it's that way with our spouse. The second commandment says, you shall have no other gods beside me. No other gods before me or beside me. Don't look at other men or women. Don't look at other men or women. If you're married, keep your eyes on your spouse. Comparing follows dissatisfaction, and often strengthens disappointment. When we start taking our eyes off our spouse and what if, although I will never leave my spouse, but my mind, I'll give my place a little place of lingering to be able to kind of poke around and look around. Although I'm not going to leave my spouse, but I kind of allow my eyes to wander a little bit, my mind to wander a little bit, my thoughts to wander a little bit, and all that right there is that dissatisfaction there, and that breeds discontentment with their spouse, and therefore a lack of peace. Focus on what your spouse does right. It's so easy to focus on what our spouse doesn't do right. Because sometimes if we were talking to any of our spouses, most of us can say, you know what, I can give you quick 2, 3, 4, 5, 20 things my spouse does wrong. And the things that push my button, that agitate me, they get me, I can tell you what they do wrong, but can we just as quickly tell them how many things they do right? If we can sit here and list off things that our spouse does wrong faster than things they can do right, it shows where our head is really at. It shows how unhealthy our marriage really is. You hear what I'm saying? We should be able to rattle off the things my spouse does right faster than things they do wrong. Because if not, it shows us where our mind, our hearts are really at, how self-centered we really are in the relationship, and therefore how unhealthy the overall marriage is. Thanking him or her for this quality will strengthen it. Thanking them for the qualities that you love. Say, well, you know what? My spouse they do 3 things I like and 7 things I don't. And it's hard sometimes to balance that, Pastor Christian. I hear you, but if you knew my spouse, and I got these things over here, they do some good things over here, but things to struggle with over here, when we do that, start building up the weak things and strengthen these things. And therefore, these things will become stronger than things that are frustrations. That's wisdom. That's wisdom. You're like, well, Pastor Chris is not well received. That don't matter, but it's still wisdom on how to strengthen our homes. Thanking our spouse of what they do right. This is your spouse. There is no other. The second commandment. It's the same thing when we remember the commandments. If you look at the heartbeat behind the commandments, it's not just do's and don'ts about how to live. It's how to be in right alignment with the Lord. And with that there, we see the same formula as how to be right with our spouse. The third commandment, you must not take the name of Jehovah your God in vain. Don't speak about your husband or wife dishonorably. Don't speak about your husband or wife dishonorably. Because sometimes, especially in trusted circles or friend groups, it's easy to what? To diss our spouse instead of building up our spouse in public. Sometimes it's easy to say, we'll jest, we'll joke. My spouse or my old lady or whatever, the other people say, and we say we jest sometimes about my wife, and we'll make those jokes right there about my husband, about those jokes and that there idea. Listen, sometimes we need to reorient and not do things like the world does. That's how the world talks and communicates. Well, they make jokes and jests about their spouse. That should be no place in a believer's heart. The things that we should be doing is building up, propping up, cheerleading our spouse in public. I can tell you something that the people who do that, they stand out from those who don't. The people who cheerlead their spouse stand out from those who don't. Because normally it's little slights, it's little cuts, it's little digs about their spouse. Sometimes it's in their presence, sometimes it's away from their presence. Not in venting sessions, not in flippant rants, not in friend circles. Build up our spouse. Are there times where we speak dishonorably about our spouse? Yeah, if you're in counseling or something. Or if you're in a session where you're talking to somebody and it has a purpose, it has a goal to how to fix something, not just to vent or rant and throw your spouse under the bus. That's got no place in a believer's home. Why? You're crucifying your circle. You're hurting your own marriage. The Bible talks about when we get married, the two become one. Why would you purposely dig and hurt your part of you who's supposed to be one with you? The fourth commandment, remember the Sabbath day, Yom Shabbat, to keep it holy or set apart. Set apart quality time for each other. The whole purpose of God says, you know what? This fourth commandment was not there for no reason there, but he said, listen, I'm putting in a weekly date with me. That's what Shabbat's the day of rest is all about. I'm saying, hey, a weekly date with me to spend time with me. So too, we can do that in our marriages. A weekly date, a weekly time to spend time with one another. Set apart quality time for each other, just like God established a Sabbath to give time with him, with one another. If we do this right here, that's a pattern for marriage. God has it for this relationship here, so we can do it with this relationship right here. Set apart quality time. Create good memories. Listen, I get it. Our society, our Western 21st century society, is go, go, go. I get it. And therefore, it's time. Creating memories sometimes sometimes we do it, sometimes we don't. But the goal right here is not just memories, it's good memories. It's good memories. And too often we stay so busy, and sometimes we go thing to thing to thing to thing to thing, item, agenda, all of our things. We're go all the time. What happens? We're building good memories. And something that I'm learning late in life is that sometimes better birthdays aren't about items, but about memories. That goes with all of us in life. Sometimes we should maybe do less gifts and more memories. The gifts will fade away. The memories are planned to stay, to invest, to spend time, to create good memories. Dwell on the good times. It's easy to focus on all the things that our spouse does wrong and things that frustrate us, and we focus on the negative all the time. Dwell on the good times. That's the purpose. The purpose for having a weekly date with the Lord is not to focus on negative things. Not that you can't ever deal with negative things. Sometimes you got to be honest. But the whole purpose of a date is not to be negative. It's to be what? To draw close. So too, a weekly date with our spouse is to what? Draw close. And we can't do that if we're just focused on negativity. Dwell on the good things. Revelation, John talks about the idea of these, when he's writing Revelation here, and he says that you've lost, he's talking about this church, is you've lost your first love. And the remedy, he says, go back and do the first work. In other words, the thing that you did, that you learned. Now, I know sometimes families shift and dynamics shift and kids bring about things and change. But what were the things that initially caused you to fall in love with the person that you married? Go back and focus on those things. I know it's easy to focus on all the distractions and with kids and grandkids and all these kind of things that come about. But focus on the things that cause you to come together to begin with. Treat your marriage as a holy union. As a holy union. And what does God want for our marriage? Sometimes I'm praying right now about the same idea, is that sometimes it's like we focus so much on, and even trying to make our marriage better or to improve things, but how often do we actually say, God, what do you want for our marriage? How often do we pray that way? If we want God to be the centerpiece of our home, why wouldn't we pray that way? Should it not be standard? Standard protocol. God, what do you want for our marriage? What do you want for our home? What do you want for our lives? The fifth commandment is honor your father and mother. Honor your father and mother. Honor your parents. And sometimes it isn't just the idea. It's interesting. It doesn't say, hey, honor your father and mother until you get married, and then you no longer honor your parents. It doesn't say that. We interpret it that way often, but it doesn't say that. It says honor your father and mother. Honor your father, honor your parents. Honor your in-laws. Listen, y'all know the cliche that our parents took care of us when we were young, and then it's our turn to take care of them when they're old. In our society, we don't choose to do that. We choose to put our parents in homes and not take care of our parents, not care of our grandparents. We say, you know what, we're passing off the responsibility to other people because it inconveniences us. I'm not saying there aren't times where special needs come about. I get all that. But as a general rule, we want our parents to take care of us when we're young. When it's our turn to take care of them when they're older, many people start passing the buck. That is dishonorable. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. We should honor our parents in their elder age that they took care of us in our younger age. Honor. Does not say when you get married. I get it sometimes. I get it sometimes special needs and sometimes hands-on care. I get sometimes those situations do come. But the majority of cases out there, it is a family's responsibility to take care of their parents. That is a way to honor them. Honor them. Honor them in their hopes and dreams for you. Sometimes we can't do everything they want, but sometimes you know the intent of what they want. Honor them in their hopes and dreams for you. Honor them in their old age. Remember the scripture says, if you don't take care of your own, you're worse than an infidel. You're worse than an unbeliever. So I believe in God, I praise God for his goodness, but I don't want to take care of my parents when they need help. That's dishonorable. They say you're worse than an unbeliever. Even unbelievers will do that. You don't want to take care of your own family? Even when they make no sense to us. Sometimes even our parents may not make any sense. The decisions they make, the choices they make, may not make any sense to us. But we can still honor them. We can still be gentle with them, honor them. And the idea of being multi-generational. Honor them. Listen, God designed family to be multi-generational, not fractured living like we do today. The way we do living today in 21st century Western society is not the way God intended family to be. Family was intended to be multi-generational. It was always on the be. One of my biggest, if people who know me, know my heartbeat for this church, one of my biggest things I want for this church is to be multi-generational. It thrills my heart when I can see three or even a fourth generation in a church together, all worshiping together. Come on, that's good stuff. That's the way it's supposed to be, multi-generational. Families were designed to be multi-generational, not to be fractured. I get it. Our society calls us, it warps the way we think. Therefore, it becomes unnatural to think multi-generational sometimes. But sometimes we cannot allow our generation, our culture to warp the way we think. We need to step back and have things from a biblical, God-centered perspective. A biblical, God-centered perspective. Number 6, do not murder. Sometimes I would never murder my spouse, but we do it with our words. Sometimes we murder our spouse with our words. We cut, we dig, jab. Sometimes the anger and bitterness in our heart towards them, we'll crucify them with our words. There's a Chinese torture, there's death by 1,000 cuts. Sometimes we'll do that. Say, I would never murder my spouse. Pastor Chris, that's stupid, even talk about something so stupid. But then we'll do about 1,000 cuts. Cut, dig, hurt, gossip. See what I'm saying? We'll do that over and over and over again and dig on a spouse by 1,000 cuts. That's got no place. It's got no place in our hearts. It's got no place in our marriages. Don't kill their confidence. Don't kill their confidence. Why would we want to tear down our spouse? If you think about it, if you step back for a second, why would we ever want to tear down our spouse? Don't we want our spouse to be healthy and fruitful? It only makes sense to build them up, to build our spouse up, not tear them down, not to make jest and jabs, but to build them up. Don't kill their confidence. Build life. Build life into them. Paul says in Ephesians, be angry and don't sin. Be angry and don't sin. Don't let the sun go down your anger. In other words, keep short accounts. Keep short accounts. Because sometimes we'll allow that thing to fester because sometimes we don't deal with issues in a marriage because we don't want to deal with drama. If I deal with this, it's going to cause drama, and I don't want the drama, so therefore I'm just not going to deal with it. And we allow things just to linger and linger and linger and linger. And why? That's just allow the devil a foothold. Sometimes it's better to tear the Band-Aid off. And men, we got to stop being sissies. Men, we got to stop being sissies. Because sometimes listen, I'm not trying to dig here on women. Sometimes women can be emotional. And sometimes women can be emotional. So you know what? I don't want to deal with the emotional drama I do if I have to confront something that needs to be confronted. And I don't want to deal with that. So we don't do what? We allow the women to wear the breeches, so to speak. Men will cower out of fear of the potential drama I'll get if I deal with a hard issue. And then we'll cower and I just won't deal with it. I'll just kind of dig a little jab, and I don't really deal with the thing the way it should be dealt with in a wholesome capacity. And because if we do that, we allow things to continue to fester and undertone, and we are responsible for bringing peace into our homes. And sometimes we as men fail our homes and fail our wives out of fear of the potential outcome of the landmine that could cause about if I try to deal with a hard issue. Man, we got to step up. Listen, as a general rule, women will respect us if we take a hard stance, even if it's to our fault. As a general rule, women are attracted to strong men, not sissies. And sometimes our culture is teaching us as men to be sissies. But women are attracted naturally. They gravitate naturally to strong men. And sometimes as men, we need to make strong decisions, even if it is a temporary hurt. If we do things in love, we do things in grace, we do as peacefully we can, but we must stand up and be men. Don't allow this culture to weaken us and for the responsibility to lead. Express appreciation. Build life. Build life. Find the things that our spouse does well and build life into them and not just tear them down. It makes no sense. Don't commit adultery. You're like, that's the easy one, Pastor Chris, and I got that one. Don't do that. So we don't got anywhere else on that. Just like God does not want us to be unfaithful to him, so to our spouses, not being faithful to our spouses. It goes without saying we're to be faithful. Don't betray your spouse by publicizing personal issues. Don't betray your spouse by publicizing personal issues. And with this here, sometimes we allow our minds, as I started off by saying, we allow our minds to wander and say, well, I would never commit adultery with my spouse, but we'll commit it emotionally, even without doing sometimes the physical act. Sometimes we'll have emotional adultery because of a lack of peace in our home. So I want peace. So sometimes we allow the lack of peace in our home will allow our emotional adultery to take place with others or even screens. To do what? Because I'm craving peace, and because I don't have it, therefore I'm trying to find it somewhere else. It's on us as believers, and especially as us as men. If there's a lack of peace, it's our responsibility to help put things in place, to make things right, to lead. And sometimes leading, there is it takes, listen, we're about to build a parking lot out here. And in this, amen, yes. And in this parking lot, we're going to tear this property up to bring about something beautiful and effective. Sometimes, if we try to go there and just try to just sugarcoat it, we're not going to have a beautiful parking lot there. On a much grander scale, if we're so scared of tearing something up to bring about something beautiful, you're not going to have any harvest. You're not going to have any harvest. If we want a stronger marriage, a stronger family, stronger relationships, where there is peace and shalom in a home, we cannot be afraid to take the necessary actions to bring those things about. Number 8, don't steal. This is a big one right here. Sometimes we will steal the best years of our spouse's lives with grumbling and complaining. Sometimes we'll complain, we'll grumble, and on and on and on, where there's constant criticism of our spouse, constant negativity, and we're stealing the best years of our spouse's life because of our negativity, of our complaining. I pray to God that's not what we're doing. I pray to God that's not what we're doing, but it's normal. It's normal. And sometimes say, oh, yeah, I might steal from my spouse, but we'll steal their heart. We'll steal their joy. We'll steal their peace by complaining. A critical spirit. Many Christians have a critical spirit. Many Christians have a critical spirit. And all it's doing complaining. And guess what? It's where it becomes normal. Give credit where it's due. Give credit where it's due. If you have an opportunity, you see your spouse do something good, big or small, it's irrelevant. Build them up. Build them up. Build your spouse up. Cheerlead them. Build them up. Build life into our spouse. Pay respect to whom is due. Honor to whom honor is due. Build life into your spouse. Number 9. Number 9. Don't bear false witness. Don't bear false witness. Be honest and open in communication. Many times, listen, and I get it, and I just got this saying this a moment ago, but we will not be honest in our communication because of a fear of the outcome. I get it. Sometimes it's easier not to rock the boat and to keep the boat above water. I get it. But then we can't complain when things are never the way they're supposed to be, where there's peace. If you remember, we talked about this a few weeks ago, that the idea when God made a man and a woman, he put certain characteristics that he has into a man. And he put certain characteristics that he has into a woman. And so the two come together, and the two are functioning the way we're supposed to function, husband and wife. They're supposed to see the totality of his character and his nature in between the two. So when you have a husband with certain characteristics, a wife with certain characteristics, they're godly characteristics, and it's to do what? It's supposed to bring synergy between the three. I get goosebumps even talking about now. Synergy between us, between God and a man and a woman, because now it's all functioning the way it's supposed to function. What happens when there's friction taking place between a husband and wife, guess what? There's no synergy between the Lord. And sometimes we're lying to ourselves and I have a relationship with the Lord when there's not synergy between a husband and wife. Oftentimes we're lying to one another. We're lying to ourselves. If you remember there, if we started off in the passage, 1 Peter 3, it says that husbands, it talks about how husbands should take care of their wives so that our prayers are not what? Hindered. The prayers are not hindered. So it starts off with. Let's not mistakenly think if my spouse really loved me, they should be mind readers. That was brave. Or very dumb. Not mind readers. Sometimes it's always so healthy when you especially deal with kids and we tell a kid, you say, well, we try to teach our kids to say they're sorry when they've done something wrong. And sometimes we relate that to even adults, which we're losing as adulthood, but the idea of, and when you tell a kid, you teach a kid to say they're sorry, but you say, we're sorry for what? Because sometimes what they're apologizing for may not be what the offense really was. And sometimes even in a husband and wife, when you can have a spouse will apologize to the other spouse and they'll apologize. And sometimes you have to say, well, because you need to be clear what you're apologizing for. Because sometimes the offense is misunderstood. You think it's one thing, the spouse took it as something else, and now you think you're making progress and headway, and guess what? You made nothing, because you're talking about different things. Be clear, be clear, be clear in your communication. Listen, the passage talks about that to dwell, the husbands are to dwell with their wives according to knowledge. In other words, communicate. I get it. Most women, as a general rule, over-communicate. Most men, as a general rule, under-communicate. Okay? So where's the balance supposed to be? In the middle. In the middle. Men, we sometimes have to step up and dwell with our wives according to knowledge. Dwell with them. Listen to them. I get it. Sometimes they want to talk a little bit more than we want them to. As a general rule, so that's not always the case, a general rule. I get it, okay? But men are supposed to be investing into our spouse. And that means listening and communicating and dwelling with them according to understanding. Because sometimes we'll do what? I get in trouble too sometimes, and I will under-communicate with my wife, and therefore there's confusion, misunderstanding about agendas, about plans, about calendar, about feelings, all kind of things. I'm guilty too. But we can't be mind readers. Can't expect our spouse to be mind readers. We have to communicate, open dialogue. And if we get back to the place of having a weekly date, it helps provide the atmosphere to be able to do that. The atmosphere is key. Listen, it brings about peace if you know that you have a date time coming every week. There's something about it I can't explain, but there's something about it that brings a piece of stability and peace into a relationship. When you have outset, maybe, for us it's Saturday afternoons. For you, maybe Friday night, maybe Sunday night, whatever it is. Whatever your place is where you have a place that you know that every week we have this scheduled time, there's something about it that gives you a place to look forward to it, and a place of, it's a highlight of the week. It's a place to bring peace. That's what Sabbath is supposed to be. The same thing every week, I just get to Sabbath and I have my time with the Lord. This appointment is here. We got this. It's the same too with a Sabbath with our spouse, a date with our spouse. It's the same idea. Don't exaggerate. You always do this. You always leave your shoes right here. You never put the cap on the toothpaste, whatever it might be in your house. Don't all exaggerate always. Now that might be always the case there, but as a general rule, don't exaggerate. What happens is, as little things exaggerate, it is what? It's ineffective communication. The whole purpose is to have effective communication, and we go right there into the immediate blanket statements. It does what? It calls the other person to shut down. If we're trying to create dialogue, if you say you always, the other person does what? Shut down. Guess what? You just lost. You think you won the argument because you were the most right in the argument, in the moment. You're the most accurate point. But you lost because you shut down your partner in communication. So you think you won, but you lost. Stick with I sentences, not you. A lack of honest communication can contribute to a root of bitterness. Why? Ineffective communication. Ineffective communication. And lastly, do not covet. Do not covet. Don't be jealous of the freedoms your spouse seemingly has. Sometimes we go through different parts in our life, and I get it. And sometimes where I may be with my life right now, maybe a little bit place where your life is right now, and vice versa, and different people. But as a general rule, there are times, sometimes a lot of times, where our spouse seemingly has more freedoms, and sometimes there is this jealousy, and there's this place of envy, and there's a place of hidden bitterness in a home, because we're jealous or envy of the freedoms our spouse supposedly has. I got this responsibilities, and you don't. And there's out there a friction, this undercurrent of friction in a home. Bear in mind the burdens your spouse carries. and help as you can. One of the biggest struggles in marriages when people get married is because of the expectations they place on their future spouse. And then when they get through the honeymoon period, they realize their expectations don't always come to pass. Because one spouse expected one thing, the other one expected something else. And then once the honeymoon phase begins to wear off, that might be a contributing factor to wearing off the honeymoon phase. And then what happens, there begins to be friction because of expectations that takes place right there, instead of open communication. Open communication. Bear in mind, listen, each one carries different kind of stresses. Try to look at things from your spouse's perspective, not just ours. Make arrangements for each other to have free time and date time. How often do we think about that? Do we schedule time to have our spouse to have free time, to have downtime, to be able to detox from the world, whatever the case might be, detox from even watching kids, what it might be, but a free time and date time. Make arrangements. So with this here, you can see the Ten Commandments. This is the person I chose. I won't blame you for my insecurities. This is my spouse. There is no other. Don't speak about your spouse dishonorably. Make quality time for your marriage. Honor your parents and in-laws, and teach your children by example. Don't crucify with words. Keep short accounts. Be faithful. Don't betray by publicizing personal issues. Don't steal the best years of your marriage by complaining and grumbling. Be honest and open in communication. Don't exaggerate. And the 10th commandment, don't be jealous of your spouse's freedoms. Bear in mind their burdens. The 10 commandments, again, the things that we are relating to one another right here, they are the same 10 commandments because the 10 commandments are covenant language. They're covenant language. But God is marrying Israel and becoming a husband to them, biblically speaking, becoming that husband to Israel. And with us there, these are the outlines of how to have a good covenant relationship, and so too to have with one another. But if I can say this one more time, don't steal the best years of your marriage. Don't steal the best years of your marriage with grumbling and complaining. Invest, 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 invest into your marriage, into your home. And then you won't go back and at the end of your life with just regrets. I wish I could have done better. Father, thank you for loving us.